Hi, I'm Tamarah Green, Executive Director of Walpole Media Corporation, and I'm joined today with Town Administrator Jim Johnson. Jim, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. We have a lot of things to talk about, but first, I'd like to say congratulations because I understand that for the first time in the town's history, Walpole has received a AAA bond rating from Standard & Poor's. So can you first start by telling us what a municipal credit rating is?
So municipal credit rating helps us each year when we go out to borrow a specific item. For example, this year it was $5.9 million we borrowed for a few different water projects. They go out and rate you and say basically how stable you are. They looked at management of the town, 5-year forecasting, fiscal policies in place, and they determine what type of interest rate and how reliable you are. So for the past almost 20 years now, we've been trying to get over the hump, to get to that AAA bond rating. And I was really optimistic that we would get there, and we've been trying for a long time. So fortunately this year they were happy with they've been historically happy with the town's finances, with the stabilization funds set aside, the town's free cash, the management of the town. But we were able to get over the hump this year by having a few more policies in place in regards to the financial planning of the town, and we implemented a new 5-year forecasting tool. So that really got us to where we need to be, and I'm really happy to report that we're finally there. We were able to get a 3.72% interest rate on this borrowing, and this not only will help this year's borrowing, but in the future when we go out to borrow for the final middle school funds and the high school project.
So what's the difference between a AA and a AAA? Just the credit rating?
Just more or less the credit rating and also the interest rate that you're likely going to get back. I actually asked them to run some numbers for us, our credit rating agency, and I said, how much specifically did we save by having compared to a AA to a AAA? They estimate on this borrowing we saved about $60,000. Not only will that help us going forward with future borrowings, the larger the borrowing, the more you're going to save. So, for example, the high school project, we estimate that we're going to go out for a $25 million borrowing. So we will save hundreds of thousands on that one just by getting that increased rating there.
Is the municipal credit rating something that has to be done every year?
It has to be done every time we go out to borrow for a specific project. So historically, as I've been here for 20 years now, for my first 10 years, I was the assistant town administrator. We didn't borrow that much. We didn't do as many projects. For the last 5 to 8 years, we've done a considerable amount of projects. We've done the police station, fire station, council on aging, fields project, middle school now the high school. And we've done a lot more over the time because the town's really been prosperous. And so lately we've been every year going out to borrow.
You touched on this already, but the credit rating is based more on just the town's credit status. So can you give us a little bit more?
It's not only the town's credit status, it's also how has the town grown, and how is, so for example, Walpole has gone from, 20,000 people, we're up to 26,000 people in probably about 20-25 years. We continue to grow. The more growth we have in town, the more we continue to build upon that. We haven't passed an operating override since 2012. I'm really proud that we've been able to sustain that. So they look at that. They also look at how much money do you have in the bank? How much money do you have in your stabilization accounts? We've also formed the capital stabilization account that set aside some money for the infrastructure projects we need. What's your free cash number? We've been able to increase the free cash number year over year because we're just mindful of how we manage that, how we conservatively estimate our local receipts that come in. And it all goes down to not only the financial management, but also the elected and appointed leaders who are in place. We've had a great select board over the last 5 to 10 years, same with finance committee. They've supported the projects that we've pursued, and they look at the picture and who's in those key positions. And they cited the management, myself, the finance director, Jody Cuneo, the treasurer collector, Lisa Sinkus. Is that a stable group in place? And they factor in all those items before they elevate you up.
So that is a perfect segue to my next question, which was to ask what other town officials and or board members and committees were involved in this rating.
So as I said, the select board, it really starts with them. They're the top elected officials in town. They've, over the last 5 or 10 years, they've shown a real commitment to building our infrastructure. And someone made a joke before we passed the police station. Walpole didn't really address our infrastructure for the past 50 years. We decided that in 2014-15 time frame, we needed to begin to address that. Operating a police station out of an old town hall that was built in the 1800s just wasn't sustainable. It really started there. We've been able to grow upon that, and that comes from the select board, knowing that this project was needed. We need to set aside funds in our debt budget, which allowed us to do those types of projects without an override and within our Proposition 2.5 levy limits. So it really starts there, then it trickles down to the Finance Committee, because as you know, they make the main motion at town meeting. We need their support. Without their support going forward, there would have to be a substitute motion. And then it goes down to the town meeting members who actually buy into it and agree with the plan that we have in place. As far as the key officials in place, it's all, as I mentioned, our finance department. And in this particular, the current situation, we're dealing with our school administration. Superintendent Goff has been a great partner in this, along with business manager Mike Fisher and the entire school committee. They've been supportive of the middle school project. They pushed to get the debt exclusion override in place, and now they're supporting the funds here, again, here within this building, the high school within the levy limit, to go forward with close to a $40 million renovation on the high school here.
Just to recap, for the past 20 years, Walpole has had a AA rating.
We have had, consistently a AA rating with Standard & Poor's. Prior to that, it was with Moody's, but it was always, we're second from the top. We're almost there, and we just weren't able to get there. There's about 22% of the cities and towns in Massachusetts have a AA rating, so it's, 1 in 5 towns have it. Not every town have it. So it's something that we're really happy to receive.
Does every city or town who needs to borrow money have to?
They have to be rated by a rating agency, and usually it's Moody's or Standard & Poor's. Those are the two main ones. And in order to go out and borrow, because when you go out to borrow, this time around, we had actually 5 different bidders arranged. They were all very close, and that tells us that the market was really competitive. I think the next one we had 372. The next one was, I think, just about a 375. So every city and town who's going out to build some type of project where they have to borrow for needs a rating.
The town has a number of projects coming up, one of which is going to be the new middle school. Yep. The building itself and the technology is going to help with the teaching and learning. Can you talk a little bit about the project? Sure.
So the school got out today, the 14th of June, and demo work is supposed to start tomorrow. And the project is on time and under budget, which I'm really pleased to report. We were one of the only schools, the school district, that came in under budget because of the inflation that was out there. We were really concerned that we were going to have to cut some important parts of that project. Fortunately, we weren't in that position when the bids came in, and it's just a great situation that we're in. As far as that project itself, school kids are going to be in there come the end of August. I know teachers have already started cleaning out their different buildings. And they're doing a farewell night tomorrow night, I think, at the Bird Middle School. And just really pleased that this project is moving ahead. I walked through there myself yesterday, and the main areas in that school, I think the townspeople are really going to be impressed with the way it came out. The auditorium, the gymnasium, even the cafeteria, they all look great. State-of-the-art, cutting-edge facility.
You're not just the town administrator, you're also a parent.
Yes.
So is there one particular feature, or are there a couple of different features that you're most excited about?
I'm a parent, as I said. My daughter just graduated from 8th grade at the Johnson Middle School. She'll be joining my other daughter, who's going to be a senior here at Walpole High School, but my son's 10, and he's going to be in 5th grade next year, so he'll be able to benefit from the new middle school. I also coach his football and basketball team, so I'm selfishly looking forward to getting in that gym and seeing the kids do some drills in there, play some games. They were putting in the gym floor yesterday, and it's a really nice gym. I think it's a big improvement over the Johnson and the Bird gyms where the kids practice and have games, so I'm looking forward to that.
I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
What will happen to the current Bird Middle School?
So the current Bird Middle School is set to be, as I said, demolished tomorrow. That's when it'll start to take place. There's going to be lead abatement, asbestos abatement, and they really have to clean the place out. And so that'll be coming down between now, probably the end of the fall. The contract with the contractor, the GC, runs through the end of next spring. So they'll need some time to take that down, eliminate the site fences, and get the site back to where we need it to be for its final delivery to the town. But kids will be in there at the end of August.
So what is going to happen to that space? Is it going to be
So
developed?
that space is more or less going to become general parking. It's going to also become a roundabout for buses to go in and out there. Common area for students when they get out of school. There's some outdoor classrooms that are really nice out there. I know on the back side they have a basketball court over there, some other programs out there that they've set in place. It's going to be a lot different than the current two middle schools that were completed in the mid-60s. Johnson Middle School is actually going to be put to use. There was a lot of talk about possibly doing housing there or knocking it down entirely, exploring other options. Fortunately, myself, through Superintendent Goff, were able to secure a program through local area schools that have special needs students, Tech and BICO it's called. We're going to be renting that school for a total of about $1 million a year, starting in this coming fall, with a 10-year lease that accelerates each year with 4 or 5-year options. So it's a long-term plan. The town will still keep the asset. We'll be taking in revenue for the asset, which is great news for everyone involved. And I think it's really going to be a benefit to the community. We'll still have access to the auditorium after hours and the gymnasium, and the fields will still be able to be used by the various youth programs that use that space.
So it truly is a win-win for the entire community.
It is, and it was, I say $1 million, and it wasn't something that I had ever really expected. It was kind of a long shot to pursue these two programs. Again, they're based in town. One's up on Mansion Drive, one's out on Route 1. We approached them and they said, luckily our leases are coming up or we need more space, and it's the perfect classroom space. It's a lot smaller program. I think there's about 400 or 450 students over at the Johnson Middle School. I think total combined these two programs, maybe they have 100 students, so it's a lot less space. But it's a win-win, and it was a long shot, but everything timed up perfectly.
I'm sure that's nice for some of the retired people or people who no longer have children in the school system to hear that it will eventually benefit them as well.
Yeah, certainly, for sure.
So another project coming up in the long term is the renovation to the high school. Can you give us some updates on that?
Sure. So that project is set to come before town meeting this coming fall. It has a price tag of just, right now we're at about $39 million all in. It's going to involve renovation to the space that we're currently in, the Walpole Media studio, new field house area. The current gymnasium is going to be converted to a music facility area. The science wing is going to be completely redone. The main lobby and the student counseling services are going to be set to be redone, and more or less address the areas that really need to be addressed in this building. Looking forward to it. I think it's a good project. Again, we're going to be doing that within the levy limit. There's going to be no override. We've proposed a funding plan in place that borrows about $25 million, uses some remaining ARPA money, uses some of the money that we've had left over in stabilization and that capital stabilization account that we set up 2 years ago. So we're getting creative. I call it the Walpole way, but it's the Walpole way of getting things done, and we're pretty good at it at this point.
Hence the AAA bond rating.
Yes. Yeah.
So has the town outgrown this space? Is that part of the reason for it?
I think we've outgrown it. Being a dad of some kids who played basketball and volleyball, my daughter was on the volleyball team, and I was shocked to learn that she had to practice at the Elm Street Elementary School, where she went to elementary school, because the volleyball teams couldn't practice here because the gym ceiling height was too small. And if you look at another one of my kids does track, and we have no indoor track facility. The kids in the winter are forced to go outside, run in the cold or run around this building. I've actually seen them doing that. And there won't be a regulation size track, and there'll be 2 or 3 lanes that they'll be able to practice in there in the winter. It's really needed, and it's a great reuse of the space in the current gym for the music program to expand on that, because right now they're confined to a small area, I think in this basement, and it's really needed. So I think it'll be a great overall project, because kids are going to be going from a state-of-the-art middle school to a high school that was last renovated and updated in 2000 if we hadn't done anything. So I think it'll put a fresh face on this building. The exterior building will also be addressed. If you come by here anytime when school's getting out, you're not able to get into this parking lot. Traffic backs up onto Common Street, and with this plan, the traffic improvement throughout the area here, it'll be much better flowing. Buses will have their own lanes, so you're not mingling parents with buses. I think it's going to improve the whole site. We're going to incorporate the Plimpton School into this plan too, and it's just going to, I think, work out for everyone who's involved.
I personally can attest to the difficulties we have getting into the parking lot when school lets out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
As a former musician, I'm thrilled to hear that arts are going to be not only implemented but grown here in the high school.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear that that's a priority.
It's something the school committee and the school administration have really embraced, and athletics great, but it's also great to improve on our arts and music programs.
Lastly, fiscal year 25, as of this taping, will start in about 2 weeks.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about the FY25 budget?
I actually came from a meeting yesterday with a bunch of area managers, and I feel bad for other towns. I learned that Franklin had an override that for their FY25 operating budget that was about $6.8 million that failed. I walk out of these meetings counting my blessings. We're really in a good spot here in Walpole. Generally we get the school department to where they need to be or where their financial requests are. Prior to, we don't argue about it. We just work consistently and together to try to get them where we need to be. We're very close to their request, and I think in the fall, if the state aid, state figures, Chapter 70, and the local aid numbers come in, they're about $500,000 short of where they had hoped to be. I think we'll be able to get them there in the fall. Superintendent Goff and I know the school committee were pleased to hear that when we talked about it. But overall, we're in very good shape. We budget conservatively at times, but we do that on purpose, and we don't want to overcommit, because when we overcommit with local receipts or estimating that more building permit fees or motor vehicle excise fees are going to come in, that's when we really get into a difficult situation, and we'd have to dip into free cash or one of the other accounts that we had set up. But we've received that AAA bond rating because of that conservative budgeting there. We've consistently stayed within our 2.5 levy limit since 2012. That's the last time they asked for an operating override, and that's something I'm pleased with. We have an excellent police and fire department. Would I like to get more police officers and firefighters here in town? Yes, of course. I think we'll be able to continue to do that over the next few years with some of the building projects coming in. That's something we also look for. It's called new growth. We have a project on Summer Street that's a very large 268 unit project. We have a 142 unit project coming in on the old Gilmore site on East Street. Those 2 projects alone add 400 plus units. That's going to help us. We have a project on Renmar Road that's an over 55 age qualified townhouse condo type of project that's going to start phasing in 20 units a year for the next 3, 4, 5 years. So I think I know we're in a very good situation. I always think, what if the economy collapses? Are we setting ourselves up to be in a good spot to not have to lay off people or make significant budget cuts? And I think we can withstand a storm if it comes for a year or two. And how long that storm lasts is who knows. But I think we're in a good spot right now going into FY25.
That's exciting to hear.
Yeah.
What are some of your goals for the town over the next 5 years?
Obviously, the top goal right now is to see this building, the high school that we're in, see that from start to completion. That's going to take about 2 to 3 years. If the finance committee makes a favorable recommendation, goes to town meeting in the fall, construction is probably going to start next spring in this building. That's, I think, the top one. Continuing to ensure that we have the police and fire personnel in place to meet the town's needs. One of my biggest concerns is the fire departments constantly going outside of town, whether it be to Brockton, to Newton Wellesley, and because the Norwood Hospital is closed. I don't see the Norwood Hospital opening anytime soon. I think it will eventually, but what's going on with Stewart is really drawing things out. I'm concerned about, ambulance response times, by how long it takes to get back to town. Vehicles, we're finding that, to build an ambulance and a fire truck used to be a year, 6 months. It's now 2 to 3 year wait list. So it's one of those that, so you asked me about my goal. It's to keep up with that and be mindful of those needs right there with the growing population, maintaining those police and fire personnel and their equipment needs to keep up with that. And I know eventually we're going to need to address the elementary schools. The last 2 elementary schools, there was the Boyden and the Elm Street schools, received significant renovations back in the early 2000s. I know Old Post Road and the Fisher School, roof and windows are okay, but there's other parts of those buildings that we're going to need to address. So turning my attention to those schools along with the school committee, select board, and the superintendent is going to be a challenge, because I estimate that those schools will probably need at least $25 million each. And as everyone knows, the cost of everything continues to rise. Inflation continues to go up. Month over month, it seems like, you go to the grocery store, $100 doesn't get you what it used to. It gets you a couple grocery bags. So those are some of the things I'm very much mindful of that we'll need to address over the next 2 to 3 to 5 years. So,
But ultimately, people want to move into town because of the great school system.
yeah, they do. And the developers wouldn't be building projects here or trying to do $1 million subdivisions if there wasn't a demand here. I think our schools are great. I wouldn't send my own kids to them if I didn't think they were great. And I think what we have here is really unique to a lot of the surrounding towns here. So we're fortunate. Yeah.
Wonderful. This was really educational.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I'd like to thank you for inviting me in this afternoon, and I enjoyed my time with you, so thanks so much.
Thank you. And for you viewers at home, we hope to continue this conversation with Jim Johnson throughout the year. Thank you.